Rosario, it's a very different project than El Mirador. Obviously, in this project, we work with public-private investment. Like I was saying, Mexico it's a complex country. Mexico City it's a complex city, and we don't have a lot of public money to invest. So this project and a lot of other projects that we are developing are the thesis of of an idea of how with private money we can invest in public facilities or public buildings. So these kind of projects for us are not only architectural projects. For us are urban ideas or urban solutions that obviously end up with a building, end up with architecture. But the main concern of these projects at the beginning is on a bigger scale, on the urban scale and the urban problems, and we try to touch social problems or social aspects that architecture on a physical way can't approach. In that complexity, Mexico got a lot of informal things, but we deal with this ideal and legal system that it's like the 60% of our country, and at the same time you're dealing with this 40% that is an illegal or an informal world, and the combination of these two percentages are what we are, and again. When we design this kind of projects, we're trying to deal with that social, urban architectural problem, and it's not easy because when you get a perfect system, a perfect machine, you can find the perfect architectural solution. But when you don't have that, you're dealing with a lot of things. Indian people or Asian people can understand what I'm saying. But probably in Europe, you don't have that that problem when you design, no? Because you design for a better or a perfect world, and we sometimes design with what we have or what we can deal with. And so this project is the result of that negotiation, that cultural and political and economical integration, and like I was saying, it's a private investment on a public building. The public sector doesn't have to invest anything because we are adding retail or service spaces to create an economy that can build this kind of projects. We are creating mixed use for the region again. We are trying to gather people, transportation systems, community, and a lot of things. So this is like a mix of a lot of people, authorities, investment, and retailers. So in this kind of projects, I got an analogy. It's like a jazz musician. We are not, or I'm not creating a thing from the side to the people. We are dealing with a lot of things, and you're like in the middle of a jam session. You know, you're trying to get in the rhythm of the public sector, the authorities, the community, the people, the vendors, the transportation mafias. You know, you're there like in a jam. So and I mean not in a traffic jam, in a jazz jam. And that's the exercise of this kind of project. So in that matter, we try to design projects that can defend themselves on the construction phase. Because as you can imagine, when you design a project like this in Mexico, you're dealing with the client perspective, with the authorities perspective, with the user's perspective, the economy, and a lot of things that in the public sector in Mexico, these things decide the future of the projects. No, if you don't create a project that can defend himself in the process, you got like a monster at the end of the process. So I try always to design preventing that changes or budget reductions and all that stuff that you get in the construction. So again, we create the structures that doesn't need or have any kind of addition, and we start design with a very rational approach of a structure. Again, a structure that doesn't have anything as an addition. And that's one part of the process in this kind of idea. And the other part of the process with the same idea is that if you're creating a mixed use project, you're dealing not with one client, dealing with a client that have a lot of, sometimes hundred of other clients. In this matter, if you're trying to gather all these clients and your original client is growing or decreasing your structure, with a very rational and simple structure, you can go bigger, wider, or smaller, depending what your client needs, without compromising the architecture. That was like the second approach, you know, to create a flexible structure that can accommodate different clients, and it never compromised the first idea of the project. So that's how we start dealing with this project. We started dealing with these two ideas, and then we designed like the first part of the terminal, and in the process of the construction, we just add several more axes of the same structure to add more people, and with that idea, we are developing other kind of projects in other parts of the city. So, like this idea was also trying to imagine a replicable design to other sites and other part of the city. You know? So that's how we started the project, from my conception. But obviously, the nature of the project, it's like I was telling you at the beginning, it's a transit-oriented development. It's a project that doesn't have car space. It's a space that it's trying to put services on a very efficiently location place, where the people commute between public systems. So uh, so that's the main idea, no? A building in a place like that. But I'm gonna tell you about the place. Uh, in Mexico City, we start to create to develop the subway system like 40 years ago, and then back then the idea was to create very efficient terminal stations or stations, but they never uh, take a look at the surrounding area of these places, and probably it happens the same in Europe, and with a tendency of creating TLDs, places to live, with public transportation systems, we are reshaping these places. We are trying to change the idea of these places, to bring people to live there, to work there, and to have all the services in there, and obviously to avoid the car, the private car interaction with the city. And again, this is an urban idea that we don't. I mean, we are using from other parts of the world and trying to accommodate in our economy. You know, you were saying about the influences that we got, and I was telling you that we got influences in this matter, like architects like Renzo Piano. But again, the problem is that we can't bring that kind of architecture to Mexico. We need to deal with our economy and with the concept of a better world, but it's not easy because I mean, the subway system works perfectly in Mexico. The problem with our system is outside the subway stations. When you get out of the perfect system, you enter to another world, to another dimension. So it's very, very difficult to work with that. So understanding the urban composition of the project, the economical part of the project, and this strategy that we take with this client, that it's a very complex client again, because this client he construct the buildings. He got a construction company. He's like he's the landlord. He got a lot of he got a lot of square meters of the retail. I mean, he owns a hospital company. He owns I mean, he owns a lot of things that are inside this project. So on the pictures you can see this rational structure that works on a very simple way. We always, with this client, we always try to use natural light. We try to use natural ventilation and very, very local and low maintenance materials. So that's El Rosario. It's a huge project with a very complex client that, on the other hand, with this complexity, he's willing to invest in this kind of projects. So for me, this is a great client that gives us the opportunity to understand how can we reshape, or how can we deal with the complexity of our society. Also, I'm very grateful with this project because of that, because I think that we are trying to deal with real problems, giving or trying to give real solutions. So, and that's El Rosario. I think that that's a small architectural gesture on a very difficult urban context, and with the idea of dealing with a social complex problem that it's this informal and formal integration.